12, 13 degrees, but feeling a lot cooler than that, 7 or 8, with the more persistent rain over southeast Scotland and northeast England. That slowly fizzles on Tuesday night, but stays fairly damp across eastern parts of England on Wednesday. Elsewhere, looking much brighter and drier, and that is the theme for the second half of the week. Low pressure systems disappear and a high moves in, promising a lot drier weather for most of us for the second half of this week.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Who is it?
We're here for the show.
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, you're with GB News. The top story this hour, a group of Tory MPs who think the government's Rwanda policy needs a complete rewrite say they will vote for Rishi Sunak's legislation tomorrow, but they warned they'd oppose any amendments that would risk the UK breaching the rule of law. The European Research Group says the current law provides an incomplete solution and a total overhaul may be the only way to stop the boats. Well, earlier, Illegal Migration Minister Michael Tomlinson said he's confident the plan will work.
This is the toughest piece of legislation that's ever been tabled before Parliament. This is what we're determined to debate tomorrow. This is what we will debate tomorrow, and we'll come to amendments in due course. But I'm convinced, because we've seen it, and I'm convinced because of the government's legal position that we've published this afternoon, that this is the toughest piece of legislation, that this does meet the concerns of the Supreme Court, and we're going to have that robust debate tomorrow afternoon.
Well, in other news today, the Prime Minister's been busy defending his controversial Eat Out to Help Out scheme during lockdown, saying it was merely a micro policy within a bigger plan to reopen the UK. Rishi Sunak told the COVID inquiry it had been designed specifically to safely lift lockdown restrictions. He began his evidence with an apology to those who'd lost their loved ones to COVID. However, he played down suggestions by lead counsel Hugo Keith, KC, that severe inefficiencies in Downing Street had led to a chaotic style of governance. And the Prime Minister also blamed government borrowing during lockdown for record-high taxes now. He told the inquiry the economic impact of paying it back is only now being felt by taxpayers. It comes as new data shows property taxes are among the highest in the UK across the developed world, with the Office for Budget Responsibility signalling further hikes are on the way. Now, the government is offering a financial package which it says is worth £2.5 billion to support the return of devolution to Stormont in Northern Ireland. It would include a lump sum to settle public sector pay claims and a new needs-based funding formula for public services. But Sinn Féin Vice President Michelle O'Neill says the offer doesn't touch the surface, while the DUP leader Sir Geoffrey Donaldson says it doesn't go far enough. And lastly, the Duke of Sussex will have to pay more than £48,000 in legal costs to the publishers of the Mail on Sunday newspaper after losing part of a libel battle. It follows a failed attempt by his lawyers to throw out part of a defence against a libel claim he's bringing against the newspaper. It's in relation to an article about the Prince's security arrangements whilst he's in the UK. The claim itself can still go ahead to trial and will be heard between mid-May and the end of July next year. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Hello everyone, welcome to Headliners, your nightly run through the next day's papers with three comedians. I'm one of them, Simon Evans, and tonight I'm joined by Leo Kearse and Bruce Devlin. How are you, gentlemen?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Excellent. Hot.
It's really hot in here.
Yeah,
Climate change. Is it? Is Greta in the roof?
They overcompensate, don't they? In the summertime, it's fine, but as soon as it gets cold outside... Yeah, it's a very Russian thing, that. Anyway, let's take a look through Tuesday's front pages. Daily Mail down to the wire after a day of grandstanding from both wigs of the Tory party. Telegraph, Ben Wallace, do not let Rwanda row bring down the government. I don't think it will need that. Guardian, climate draft condemned as weak and insufficient. The iNews, Tory rebels in standoff with PM on Rwanda law. The Sun, Fury versus Cheshire Council, that must be Tyson Fury then, and Daily Express, last-ditch bid to win over rebels. That's our top paper haul. Rather thrown there by the absence of the Daily Star and Boffin News at the end. I normally have that little flourish to look forward to, but obviously they haven't published in time. So we've got the Daily Mail to kick off with. So they have Tories in turmoil. After a day of grandstanding from both wings of the Tory party, Rishi faces Rwanda vote today that could sink his leadership. And just about the only thing his MPs agree on, it's going down to the wire. That's their big thing. Basically, Sunak, it's been a fraught week for the Tory party. Well, it's been a fraught 13 years,
13 years
for the Tory party. But the Rwanda bill, I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Rishi because he thought this bill, it was going to be cast iron. It would appease the sort of the hard conservative, or the still existing conservative wing of his party, and satisfy them, while being okay for the moderate centres. But in fact, it's not. Neither side is happy, and it's a huge issue now. And it looks like the wheels are coming off Rishi, and he could be out. We could have another Tory leader before the next general election.
I mean, that is insane, isn't it? I had at least thought that Sunak would take it from here to the election. It never occurred to me. I mean, I'm not happy with him exactly, but it never occurred to me that the Tories would be this ridiculous. Yeah, but I think because they're facing, I mean, the last poll I looked at was Labour were 21 points ahead. Yeah. Because they're facing complete wipeout, I mean, a lot of MPs are actually going to lose their jobs. So they might as well roll the dice. I guess one of the things that they're most worried about, of course, is losing people to the right now, which wasn't a problem at the last election, but now there is a genuine alternative, and people understanding that the Tories aren't going to win might well use a protest vote to the Reform Party, whatever.
Who do you think would be a potential next swan song Prime Minister then?
I think somebody could come back.
Liz.
Liz Truss.
But that's word on the street.
She showed real promise.
If
Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng came back in and slash corporation tax and build a budget for growth, I would vote for them again, frankly. Maybe if somebody else did those things, but just wasn't them. Yeah, possibly. A chance. They got time for at least 3 more leaders before next August. What have we got next? We've got The Guardian, Bruce.
Yes, and this is the climate draft of the recent COP28, condemned as weak and insufficient. A draft deal to cut global fossil production, is grossly inefficient and incoherent, it is said. My point about this whole thing is, why don't they do these online? Seriously, why aren't they virtual COPs? Yeah. I never understood it, and I have said it on the show before that I remember at COP26, I was appalled to hear.
Is this the Glaswegian one?
This was the Glaswegian one, but at Glen Eagles, where they had people staying, which was in Perthshire, so more travelling, they did get a fleet of Teslas, but there was no generator then, they had to get a diesel one to power the electric cars. So if
they had to have a van pulling this diesel generator along, following the fleet around. It was the most carbon inefficient way of travelling you could get.
But then, why are they having it in Dubai anyway, where all their money's made on oil?
Well, plenty of, I mean, not that I'm a huge fan, but George Monbiot on Question Time on the BBC made this point fairly forcefully, that the entire thing has been all the COPs, he reckons there have been 2 where any sort of decent agreement was drawn up, which might not have existed beforehand, and even those completely failed before the next one came around. Yeah, and it's obviously just a sort of nice jolly at the taxpayers' expense for all these delegates, and it's interesting to see the Glasgow one. I think 30,000 people turned up to that. The estimates for this one are between 70,000 and 400,000. As soon as it's held somewhere with really nice hotels, you can get anything you want on room service, then people will turn up. It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, call it greenwashing, but it's not even, I mean, it's just pantomime, isn't it? Yeah. It's absurd. Well, is that all that there is on the front page for The Guardian?
Yes.
Yeah, nothing else. What have we got with The Telegraph, Leo?
So The Telegraph has Sunak must channel...
Who are those children, first of all?
Oh, that is, I don't know, is it the Kate and William?
OK.
Oh, that's Leo and Charlotte.
OK.
Louis.
Leo.
And Charlotte. They're totally grown up. They're almost teenagers now. It's crazy.
And they're working in Amazon, by the look of it, are they?
They are. This is Amazon's new cost-cutting measure. Taking a
constitutional monarchy.
Taking a leaf from Nike. They're using child labour. It's great. We need to see more of it. Yeah. Sunak has been urged to channel Churchill and reclaim the UK's role in leading support for Ukraine. European allies want Britain to step up as Germany, France, and the US struggle to maintain backing for Kyiv. We've seen recently there's a vote that I think it still hasn't gone through to
to provide the next sort of tranche of funding for Ukraine. And in America, it's become this thing. People on the right, for some reason, it's people on the right who are not supporting Ukraine. It just blows my mind, because I'd have thought naturally it would be people on the right who support Ukraine. It's a homogenous, traditional Christian country defending its borders against a multicultural, highly Islamified, global homogenous.
Russia, you think is Islamified?
Oh, it's got the most mosques in Europe. There's no doubt that it's. I mean, so many of the troops are Chechens and all the rest.
Do you not
of it.
think it's a slight difference between wanting Ukraine to win in an ideal situation and realising that we've reached a point now where a ceasefire and a negotiated settlement is largely inevitable?
The ceasefire, the negotiated settlement, will only work if there's a threat, if there's a stick. There's no point having having just words. Like if Putin knows he can win, all he's going to do is retool and try again in 6 months. And also the money. There's a lot in the West. People say, this funding is all going to Ukraine. It's not. It's spent in America. It's spent in Britain. It's spent in our factories building the munitions, and it's spent. A lot of this stuff is, looks like it's costing money. We're just shifting decommissioned tanks and stuff across there. So it's saving us money in storage.
I understand the decommissioned tanks and the past their sell-by date missiles. But Ukraine, the average fighting man now is sort of in his 40s. I mean, they've got no one left. We've thrown a lot of Ukrainian blood into this ditch.
Which is why we need to give them better weapons. It sickens me to see how the West has done this. We've sort of dragged it out when we could have given them the weapons to. The West says, we're worried about escalation. There's no sign that Putin's going to escalate and suddenly nuke London. Touch wood. But and if it does, would it be a bad thing?
Let us finish this section with the Sun, Bruce.
Yes, much more my kind of thing. This is to do with Tyson Fury's next big fight, which isn't against Anthony Joshua again. It's against the taxman.
Right.
After the champ and his dad John are accused of dodging a massive bill. So this is to do with council tax of £82,000, which is on an adjacent property. It's adjacent to his 1.5 million property. Now the thing is,
his actual house is 1.5 million.
1.5 million.
That's not very much for the world.
I think. Where does he live? In Stale, S-T-Y-A-L.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't even know what that is. And I did try and watch some of the Netflix documentary about them, but I thought, oof.
I thought maybe he's got a few properties.
Yeah. No. But the thing is, the Furies apparently are jointly worth 134 million. So I don't understand.
It's not like a privilege. What's the word? Principled stance he has against council tax, being part of a member of the traveller community. This is because that's something they don't generally regard as being a valid.
Yeah, but this house is fixed to the ground.
Okay.
So I think you've got to pay. I mean, it's not much money for
grazing
him.
there.
I'm worried the way he performed in his last fight. I'm worried that Cheshire Council will win.
Is he that bad?
Yeah,
I don't really watch it that often.
Well.
Did he not win? Is he not the champion
He won,
anymore?
but on points, and he got knocked down.
The funny thing about him is, I really don't watch the boxing, but the thing about him is he never looks like he's going to win, does he? He looks like he's like about 15 pints of bitter, and he really hasn't done any of that kind of, like the sweatbox thing before the weigh-in, and then he lumbers out, and then suddenly they get destroyed, right?
Yeah. No, he's on the right night. He's an amazing, unbeatable boxer.
He doesn't drink anymore. There was a thing, I think it was on Lorraine or something like that, and he suffered really badly from depression, and I'm not sure if it was alcoholism, but certainly using alcohol as a crutch. So I think he is, as they say, clean and sober.
So has he put to rest the pernicious urban myth that you need to be fit to be a good boxer? Then has that all been just like has that just been the aesthetics of the thing?
He's not one of these healthy at any size people. He is, he's got a little bit of a belly, but I mean he's still incredibly fit and strong.
Yeah, he's no big daddy.
Surely, if you don't mind. That's Tuesday's front pages. In part 2, we ponder life after the jungle for Nigel, life after the wildebeest for Richard Tice. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels
we're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affects us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. There's only 3 people you can trust in life: your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquia, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Clues.
And welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans, still here with Leo Kirst and Bruce Devlin, and we have the interior of the newspapers now, the Telegraph, Bruce. We have our very own Nigel Farage wondering what it would take to make him a Tory.
Yes, so he has hinted that he would be interested in a political return, but he would want a joint thing with Boris Johnson. He wouldn't return under Rishi.
No.
He's not interested in that
Well,
at
it
all.
sounds like that's no longer an option anyway.
Well, who knows? But so he finished, was the End of the Jungle last night? He finished 3rd. So a lot of people were saying, since they'd seen him at the Conservative Party conference last time, that this is all a PR thing to, I don't know if sanitise is the right word, but perhaps bring him to a new audience and show a different side of him.
A backside of him.
Well, I don't know if I want to see that myself, but yeah, to bring him back into the fold, and then I think he is quite interested. But a lot of people are saying that he could well be a Prime Minister in not this election, but the following.
People who sat in that very chair have said it quite recently. I think it's quite interesting the way that Nick Dixon. I think it's quite interesting the way that the newspaper opinion, the commentariat, whatever, seem to be divided, as is quite common with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Between, on the one hand, Farage is this terribly dangerous, demagogue in waiting who must be suffocated and suppressed and kept away from our screens all the time. And on the other hand, he's pathetic. Nobody's watching it. ITV made a mistake because ratings have collapsed and he's been an absolute wet. Whereas in reality, I think the jungle experience has been pretty much it's okay, sort of worked all right.
But the thing I was just about to say, but the thing with the ratings is people have to remember that no one is sitting watching television in the way that they used to at the peak of these programmes, sort of thing. So it's all.
Or even in the Matt Hancock era.
Did that actually exist? But it was interesting because he said, "I'm looking at the Conservative government that is in total shambles just now, facing tomorrow effectively a confidence vote on an issue that affects everyone, that affects every living human being in our country, namely immigration, on a level that has never happened even during Tony Blair's days."
The one thing I would would say is Boris was no better on that than Rishi has been. But go ahead, Liam.
But Boris won an election.
That is true.
I mean, he got the biggest majority in ages and ages and ages.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, Boris could win. If he came back with Farage, they could win. Under Rishi, they're not going to win.
I would agree with you. And also, if they could create a plausible coalition with Reform.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't really see that happening with Rishi. I'd see Rishi as creating a more plausible coalition with Keir Starmer, to be honest. Staying with friends of the channel, Leo, and the Express Police Richard Tice could be our very own wildebeest.
Yeah, so Reform UK's leader, Richard Tice, has said that his party is enjoying the same surge of support that carried Geert Wilders' anti-immigration Freedom Party to electoral success in the Netherlands. I mean, it's interesting, like Reform, I think a couple of years ago, nobody really knew. They were one of these sort of fringe parties that, you know, pulled a few percent or whatever. Now they're in double digits, and because the Tories are polling so low, and a lot of the Reform numbers are coming from the Tories, but they look like they're going to overtake the Tories.
It is largely on the immigration issue, isn't it? Not just the boats. I think also the legal immigration, the dependents coming over with students and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, and it's not that people in Britain are opposed to immigration, but it's got to be sensible, it's got to be controlled, and it's got to be sustainable. And it's none of those things at the moment. And considering the Tories came in with a mandate to, we're going to, I mean, pretty much every government ever elected
for the last 30 years.
Yeah, we're going to get a grip in it. And none of them actually do. So I think people are looking for more, radical solutions to this problem.
It's interesting because after Brexit, there was briefly a drop-off of alarm on that. It was no longer a kind of red flag issue for people. In fact, a lot of people, I think, were made to look foolish because they thought that Brexit had emboldened racists, had emboldened xenophobes, and in fact, if anything, it all just went very quiet. But now, I think it's picking up again, right?
But it's interesting that Tice has said that they're not doing any deals with the Tories.
Right.
So, and he was in tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who are they going to do deals with then? Because they're not going to be a majority party for some time, but they're going to wait, are they, until they...
I think there's going to be Tories who are looking to defect, you know, as Andrew Bridgen did to Reclaim. So, and Reform, they've got backing and stuff, so they can afford it.
It might just be that, I mean, we've said it after so many elections in my lifetime, my adult lifetime, is this the end for such and such a party? In 97, we wondered whether the Tories would ever come back, and they had some very, very dismal years. But it may be that whole brand is just looking really tired now. You know, I suppose things change, don't they, around the world a bit as well. We move on to The Guardian, Bruce, Northern Ireland. And the police have outdated day-to-day data security, don't they?
There has been a huge Northern Ireland police data breach blamed on outdated practices. What those practices are, I'm not actually sure. Outdated information management practices contributed to a massive data breach by the police service of Northern Ireland that could act as a wake-up call, quote-unquote, to other police forces, according to an independent review of the debacle. So this has cost them, I think, so far, legal costs and various security costs up to 240 million.
Wow.
They have had various people. One officer has resigned as a result of the breach, and 50 have gone on the sick.
And all they've done, they've responded to a valid Freedom of Information request, and they left a sort of open tab attached to it, which had everybody's names and addresses on it. I mean, it's pretty basic, you know, but they say it's systemic, and these things, you know, they need to be trained on it, which I think is probably true.
I used to work in criminal intelligence, and I worked as a consultant going into police forces and see, you know, improving how they use their intelligence. And you would not believe, I mean, obviously, you know, big forces like the Met handle it in a you know, pretty good way. But I went to a police force I won't name because I can't remember it, but their way of recording intelligence was to just write it down in a Word document, you know, typing like that. And then when the Word document got too big to open, they'd open another Word document. So I said, you know, so if you're searching for a criminal by name or something, what do you do? It's like we open all 47 Word documents and search in each one. And I'm like, I mean, like, never mind. Like, normally, you know, you're talking about some sort of bespoke database system. Just using Excel. Just using Excel would have completely revolutionised their data use.
I'm kind of a hypocrite in this respect. I mean, I don't use Excel at all anymore. I've never used, for instance, there are various slightly more user-friendly word, like Scrivener, I think, is one. If you want to write a long form like a full-length Edinburgh Show or something, you're supposed to learn how to do these things. It is extraordinary how many of us will just try and use a basic notes type. You know, if you learn how to use Excel, apparently it's a miraculous tool. But absolutely, there should be bespoke software, shouldn't there, for a police department?
Yeah, and I think the money in the police goes, like, whenever they want more funding, they put it, frontline officers. But frontline officers just walk around, looking at stuff.
Yeah.
They don't, they'll catch one burglar every 200 years on average. So, if you have a few intelligence staff actually directing things and managing the data in the background, it pays off.
Frontline officers just about learning how to feed a sheet of carbon paper in between the two when they go into the typewriter. Bra tycoon news now in the Sam, Leo. That can only mean one thing.
Yeah, so bra tycoon Michelle Moon. Sounds like a game. You got railroad tycoon, bra tycoon with some weird science. Design the nipples.
Like GTA, but
actually fits in quite well.
Grand theft cup size.
Well, this is a bit of a grand theft. Michelle Moon has admitted misleading the press about her links to a firm which made £200 million from COVID PPE contracts. It didn't just make £200 million from these COVID PPE contracts. It gave huge backhanders to her and her husband, apparently. She personally received £29 million. And also the PPE, the medical clothing that it made, the masks and whatever, were overpriced and not fit for purpose. So now it's being sued for £122 million. And she denied any link to this company, which gave her £29 million. It's like, I mean, it really stinks.
It's unbelievable, because she's quoted as saying, I regret not going to the press state. Wait, I believe she left the country when this all broke. So it's like, well, sorry, where are you? And then, it's, the real Vaseline over the lens and, the big sincere head nodding and all that kind of stuff. And you're just like, please,
I'm
come
very
on.
sorry I got caught.
Yeah, I know, it's really awful, but I'm used to being rich now. I can't go back to Glasgow.
That's the other thing, they're billionaires. Why are they, taking these chances to try and, grift a bit more money from the taxpayer?
I mean, we were all bored in lockdown, but come on, embezzlement of this, allegedly.
Just learn to do sourdough.
I suppose the other question is, do you think the money's still there? I mean, these people who are suing them for it, where do you think it is?
Well,
it's tucked inside of...
Given that... Maybe inside a bra.
Maybe that explains her extraordinarily.
The way they used to do that in East End pubs, the women put their tip down the...
That's right.
That was tip.
That's Windsor.
There is the Proceeds of Crime Act. So not that I'm saying, she's guilty. Obviously, she hasn't been to trial or anything like that. It just, it looks and smells a bit stinky at the moment.
I'm reading...
They could seize assets if she is.
They could seize her assets. Let's carry on.
In a very hands-on approach. But the thing is, she has a spectacular property portfolio.
Yeah.
And now we know how she's allegedly funded it. Because they've got a big place. Is it the I want to say White or Man? I can never remember which one it is. But they have a property there. And then she's got a massive penthouse on the Thames.
It would have been Man if she's canny on the tax front.
Right,
imagine.
OK.
Yeah.
That's...
Isle of Wight is principally, just for yacht racing. But Isle of Man has significant tax benefits. So
right,
probably,
well, I think that's it.
Moan of Man as well. That's probably where she's aiming for, is Lady Moan of Man.
The thing is, can I just go back to one thing? The bras, were they ever really that popular? I know Julia Roberts wore one, but...
I never wore one.
No. Maybe soon.
I mean, I'm out of my depth now. But anyway.
Are you more of a leg man?
We're at the halfway point. Stay with us for Tucker's Luck, Saturday Night Death, and the BBC's latest seasonal desecration of Agatha Christie's beloved memory. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners for the second half. Bruce, we have the Telegraph now. Melania Trump, I can't remember. Melania apparently favours America's answer to me as her husband's running mate.
She does. Tucker Carlson, back to be Trump's running mate. So Melania is reported for pushing Tucker. Apparently, he lost his job with Fox News, although we don't really know why. There was a lot of dubiety about how that happened. What he has done, which I thought was really interesting, he started his own subscription service costing $72 or £57 a year after losing his job at Fox, and since then he's been hosting live interviews on Twitter, both with Trump and with Mr. Elon Musk.
Certainly seen quite a lot of the live interviews on Twitter. I think the new subscription service is really quite new. Over the last few days.
So Melania, I didn't realise she'd also been renegotiating her prenup, so word on the street may or may not be that could be done. Because he's 54, so much younger than Trump.
And of course, think she wants to marry him as well?
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm sure she's probably looking for some kind of amusement.
He's a very committed family man with, I think, 5 children, maybe 6.
OK.
Yeah, very happily married.
That's not held anyone back in the past, but that's a lovely sentiment.
Melania and Tucker, that ain't going to happen.
I was just thinking that with him at 54 and Kamala at 59, is this going to be a new generation of youngsters pushing through?
OK, that would be nice.
Yeah, because...
He looks good for 54. I'm only 58, God.
Right.
I think that's a bit of money buying him.
Yeah. I don't think he's got his hands dirty in any sort of, manual labour. He looks like a very sort of preppy, button-down guy. He just sits behind a desk. You're actually out there getting engine grease on your fingers.
That's correct. And bed bugs up me, Jackson. Yeah.
yeah. We just edge away from you.
What do you think? I mean, we have discussed this for some time on and off, just casually. People have been talking about Tucker moving actually into politics. He's obviously like an enormously influential commentator on but I cannot quite see him making that transition.
I don't know. I mean, he's hugely... he's a smart guy. He's got incredible clout on the right, but he's quite a divisive figure, although, Trump has shown that that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
I disagree with some of the... I don't like the way the right... We used to be the people on the right used to be the fun libertarian guys for a while, kicking back against all the wokeisms. And now you've got, Tucker and Peterson, they want all this traditional values and censorship and all the rest of it, and support.
No, I wouldn't say Tucker isn't for censorship. The one thing he stands up for more than anything, Peterson has gone on an odd journey. I think one thing Tucker stands up for is like just having a functional country in which young people can get married and have children if they want to. That's basically it.
But his way of going about that, like he doesn't want any automated trucks, so he wants truck drivers to keep their jobs. I mean, that's a ridiculous economic approach. You want people to be made redundant by technological process so they can then be redistributed in more profitable parts of the economy. And we've got a shortage of people for roles. So if you want to reduce immigration, which is what Tucker's always going on about, you want that technological process, you want that automation.
That's true. Well, I would certainly be happy to see robots take over in the social care sector. I kind of get what he talks about with the
entire
drivers,
public
though.
sector, just to replace them all. Just those hoovers that go across the floor.
Like
That'll be a much more
big Commodore.
A lot of people did say that Melania was a robot. So maybe there's something in there that, you know, she's a prototype, or I don't know.
I know a lot of people also
Never. Not even help me.
I think Michelle Obama is a front leader as well for the. We could have a head-to-head. Satire news now in the Mail, Leo, and it's been a bad week for old-timers. First of all, a lame Ian Hislop interview on Times Radio, now a truly dreadful Saturday Night Live cold open.
Yeah, so calls grow for Saturday Night Live to apologise for its unfunny anti-Semitism hearing sketch that mocked the Republican Senator Representative Stefanik for calling out elite colleges instead of calling out the elite colleges. We've got a clip of it.
We've got a clip, yeah. Let's have a look.
Ms. Stefanik.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Now, I'm going to start screaming questions at these women like I'm Billy Eichner. Anti-Semitism, yay or nay?
I'm sorry, what?
Yes or no is calling for the genocide of Jews against the Code of Conduct for Harvard.
Well, it depends on the context.
Yeah, so it's
really lame.
It's really lame. I mean, the satire and comedy is supposed to, you know, poke at the establishment and, you know, speak truth. And instead, this is just enforcing the sort of liberal establishment opinion that bizarrely seems to be saying anti-Semitism is fine now. And we've seen horrific anti-Semitism on elite college campuses. And also, it's just not funny. I mean, if you're going to be horrifically racist, you know, at least, you know, do a Bernard Manning and make it really funny as well.
They went down I mean, it really is route one with sketch writing, where it basically just did what actually happened, but including some stage directions, like screechy voice, and then just says what the woman actually said.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing is a Bud Light moment for universities. We're seeing donors.
I will say this
glasses
about,
falling from heads.
Yeah, I don't know whether I feel slightly more ambivalent than it sounds like you do on this, because what I think really is the problem is not exactly that they have not clamped down or enforced, you know, hate speech legislation on campus about the anti-Semitism that's emerged. It's that they've been so extraordinarily doctrinaire on all other forms of hate speech in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah, if you misgender someone, that's you, like, expelled, that's you in jail. You know,
so they've established that's the kind of culture against which the anti-Semitism just stands out like an extraordinarily vivid. That's the problem, right? It's against their own culture of policing these things.
And there have been physical attacks on Jewish students on campus. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, one of the donors has just pulled out $100 million. I mean, they've really messed up because, I mean, who did they think was funding these elite institutions?
Well, one of the presidents has resigned already, and the woman that was being parodied there, Gay, she's also under fire for, apparently has emerged that Chris Rufo, who's, you know, is like a bulldog when he gets onto these things, the guy who basically identified critical race theory as the problem. He has identified plagiarism in her doctorate, her PhD paper, apparently, is written with uncited sources. So she could be spiralling out now. Well, I mean, this is once you've isolated one from the herd.
Yeah. And I think once the money starts moving, that's when things start changing.
Yeah, hopefully. More legacy TV now, Bruce. In the Times, Agatha Christie's great-grandson has channelled her approval of the latest casting decision by the BBC from Beyond the Grave.
Yes, which is basically Agatha Christie would welcome the decision to change the protagonist's heritage in a new BBC adaptation of one of her novels, her family have said. James Christie, as she says, her great-grandson, and said she would have supported the radical adaptations, adding TV producers a degree of licence to change things. Yeah. And this is with the British actor, what's his name?
David Johnson.
David Johnson, who was in the HBO show Industry and the film Rye Lane. And he won the Black British Theatre Award in 2020.
He's a black actor and he's playing the detective, as far as I can see, in something called Murder is Easy, which I haven't read. I mean, I don't particularly care about this, but you do kind of get the feeling the BBC need to have some kind of slightly irritating casting decision. Otherwise, they won't get the PR, right?
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be doing it to get into the papers, and it'd be nice, you know, just one day where they haven't replaced a white actor with, you know, a black person. I mean, you're never going to see them remake the A-Team with a white Bea Baracus. It's only ever going to go in one direction, and it's really sort of, it just rankles and it causes division. And why don't they just make new things with black characters instead of making this old book by Agatha Christie? Make a new thing.
Or take Agatha Christie's plot, but bring it into the modern era where it would have been more... But I mean, as I say, I really don't care that much. It just feels a little bit tired. James Pritchard, the great-grandson, presumably thinks that his great-grandmother would have approved of him continuing to get paid for these things.
He just wants that royalty check. He's like, don't derail this project. But I want to buy a new house.
Yeah, absolutely. This, though, if all they've done is cast a black actor in the detective role, that's probably less annoying than when they used, I think it was the ABC Murders, was it a couple of years ago? And that was with John Malkovich as Hercule Poirot, and they set it in a Britain in the 1930s, which was on the verge of slipping into fascism shortly after the Brexit vote. It was really heavy-handed, kind of like, you know...
John Malkovich used to own a hotel in Cardiff. It was called the Big Easy or something like that. The Big Sleep. Well, you would pray for the big sleep in there. I was in it recently, seriously, and my radiator came off the wall. And
why are you clinging on to it so tight?
I don't know. I was having night sweats.
Cardiff used to put you up in there. That was the comedy club, wasn't it? That put you up in there. And
did they?
And apparently it's been changed now. Yeah.
Oh no, I was there independently, checking radiators.
OK, Leo, the Metro now, even by the double standards of some of the delusional nonsense we've been expected to pay lip service to, this is extreme.
So a Tory MP, Rachel McLean, apologises over man in a wig tweet about transgender rival Melissa Poulton, previously Dave Poulton, I think, because, just obviously one of these, you know, like, I respect some transgender people who put the effort in, but, you know, this Melissa Poulton... It's just a bloke in a wig, and the wig's not even on street.
Wig,
and
right?
it's not even a, you know, it's a bloke, the blokiest bloke you've ever seen. I mean, I don't know, like, what he's trying to transition into, but it looks like they shaved an orangutan. In fact, didn't even shave it, just stuck a frock on it. It's ridiculous.
He hasn't changed his voice or anything, has he? Goes, yeah, it's obviously transphobia. Yeah, I'm confronting transphobia and all that, innit?
It's like that Canadian teacher with the massive fake bosoms who's almost there to trawl the gender ID thing that, you know, anybody who says they're a woman is a woman.
Extraordinary.
But yeah, it's ridiculous. But what's interesting is we covered this on my show on Saturday, and Rachel McLean, we said, you know, she'd apologise. She did apologise. She apologised for saying that Melissa Poulton is a man who wears a wig, and she did apologise. But then she retweeted the clip of our show and said, "I did not apologise."
Oh,
but then changed the thing. I did not apologise for criticising the policy, but it just looked like we were lying.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I don't know. I think that was
sympathy.
That was a disingenuous thing, and yes, I've lost all sympathy. Now I'm on the opposite side of the TERFs. Now I'm on the trans side. So how do you like that? Everybody don't vote for Rachel McLean.
Well, we were talking about it last night, and what I think would be a nice thing for these two ladies to do is both go to the hairdressers and get some layers in both their hair.
That would be nice,
because I think that would really...
Maybe Rachel McLean can give Melissa a few tips on grooming generally. And
No,
is that all wrong?
That's why I want them to both go and learn a new skill.
Bruce, Daily Mail.
Yes.
And in an act of unbridled generosity, the UK Council for Psychotherapy have conceded that the belief that there are only two sexes is protected in law.
So this is to do with Mr. Esses, who was doing a qualification. And as you say, here we have the belief that there are only two sexes is protected in law. The professional body for psychotherapists has conceded after it had its student thrown off his course for expressing gender-critical views. The UK Council for Psychotherapy also said it was a valid professional opinion that children questioning their gender should receive counselling rather than a pathway to medical treatment. Now, obviously, I don't have children. You two do.
Your valid opinion is as valuable as anyone else's, Bruce. You're allowed to speak your mind despite not having children at risk.
Well, but this is so my point is, and I understand some of it and I don't understand it. I was actually saying it to Cressida. I always knew that I was gay. I know that'll come to as a huge surprise. It was almost like I came out there, but I've no intention of doing that because I never did it originally. But the fact of the matter is that there will be some genuine situations, if you see what I mean. So that's what I mean. Not being the parent, I don't
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Some people are, genuinely transgender, but I feel like there's this drive amongst the sort of liberal progressives to sort of channel children into transitioning. It's like they've got a hammer, so everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
And so I think children that are autistic or mixed up or gay or whatever are being pushed and railroaded into this transition treatment. And it makes common sense to say they should receive counselling. That's not a transphobic thing. That's not, trying to stop people transitioning. That just seems to make sense to get them to talk to a therapist before, putting them on drugs and chopping them up.
And until 5 minutes ago, it would have gone without saying. Anyway, just one more section to go with gullible drug mules, reality TV psyops, and how to navigate the Christmas work from home office party. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's on your teeth.
It's on your teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Leo, gullible dupe news now. The Guardian have a stern warning about taking suitcases from strange UN officials.
Yeah, this is more stuff that should just be basic common sense, but this is the Australian Federal Police are warning about an emerging scam that involves transporting illicit drugs for criminals claiming to be United Nations officials. So basically, somebody comes up to you and says, would you take this suitcase? Don't open it. Don't sniff. Don't dab your finger in that powder and test it. But take it. We'll give you £35 million if you take it to Australia. So they've arrested 2 people. They arrested somebody who came from Singapore. They found 3 kilograms of methamphetamine concealed in the lining. The weird thing is he's coming from Singapore, where that's completely, like, if you're caught with 3 kilograms of meth in Singapore, you're dead. You're literally dead. It's an amazing system. So I think these people are either stupid or lying. It's like they're taking. It's like trying to smuggle hash to Jamaica.
Makes no sense at all. In fact, you shouldn't really be smuggling methamphetamine into any significant country. You can make it, exactly.
Simon's going to show you after the break.
Yeah. Baking
Should
soda.
we actually say you shouldn't be smuggling any drugs into any country?
Well, of course, you know. But morally or pragmatically, slightly different.
What I thought was hysterical was they said, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I mean, this isn't like prisoner cell block H and a teddy and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Really?
Yeah.
But how would they go, listen, this is for the UN, right? I want you to take this suitcase and see Big Jim from the UN. He's part of UNESCO. But the Aussies, they're not playing pool, so we've got to go around the back, you know what I mean?
Is this a PayPal transfer? Have they got their bank details? Have they given cash?
Yeah,
you know,
cash with £35 million of delivery.
Could you imagine, right, you get away with taking the drugs in and then you're found with the money and you're like, oh, no, you've done a Tyson Fury, you've not paid your council tax. You're going to the slammer.
That's always how they get them. Bruce, staying with The Guardian, sleep deprivation is the secret weapon of reality TV shows.
Well, of course it is, because it's a thing called jeopardy. They want people at their most vulnerable, don't they? They want people being bam-pots.
Well, it's how this works, isn't it? Headliners.
Well, kind of, yeah. You know, shine a light in my face. I was in tears, angry, emotional. That was me and Harvey Nichols on Friday. Do reality TV shows use sleep deprivation to trigger meltdowns and showdowns? And of course they do. If you deny someone sleep, if you deny them food, if you deny them alcohol, if you deny them decent people in which to hang around with, you're going to stoke a reaction. Some girl from Arizona was so desperate to get to sleep, she went to sleep with her pants on her head. Now, I mean, my point would be, how big were these pants? Because obviously you'd have the holes for the eyes.
Have you never done that?
What?
One underwear to kill the light in a hotel room with inadequate curtains.
Genuinely not.
I've done that.
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't call them pants.
What, were they, a boxer?
Yeah.
OK.
It's not ideal by any means, but it's the best thing you can do sometimes,
You thought it'd be harder with women's underwear, though?
Yeah, probably would.
You'd have to get, like, you know, just lined up right across the pupils.
Yeah.
Unless it was a thick pant, because it might have been a reality show.
But some of these shows, obviously, I mean, like, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, is the obvious thought. It's obviously part of it, isn't it? It's obviously you're under stress. It's obviously you're coming apart. That's what they hope for, a Big Brother. But what are they talking about? Shows where that isn't supposed to be part of it?
No, but what they are saying is that they really... Basically, what they're saying is that they want people freaking out, if you see what I mean. That their thing... And that's where we're at with reality television now, because, you know, if you think about things like Big Brother in this country was a social experiment the first time it happened. So was the X Factor and all that kind of stuff. It's all really formulated. So it's like, how can we push them forward to get an even more extreme reaction? You know, people spitting and fighting with each other and all that kind of stuff.
Very similar to, you know, the introduction of democracy, wasn't it, basically, in this country? To begin with, they just give the vote to a few landowners and then, you know, one or two particularly wealthy women get it, and before you know it, it's an absolute free-for-all.
I mean, they have had some, like, suicides and stuff from Love Island. But it is, I mean, it's shocking some of the stuff that people go through on reality TV. I do the show called Headliners, and we get put in stress positions.
It's like a living hell.
But the Love Island one, was that on the show? That wasn't on the show.
It wasn't a segment.
No.
Like the final.
But my point about it is that they say that these people go through psychiatric evaluation now. A lot of people will still cheat that because they are just desperate to be on the show. I feel sorry for the people that genuinely went on and
very quickly, we've got very little time, but I want to cover this one. The Daily Mail working men's clubs are thinking of getting rid of one of the two defining features in their names in order to attract more daytime drinkers, and I think they've chosen the wrong one.
So they're ditching the word men from working men's clubs. They're just going to be called working clubs. Just sounds like a club that works. They fear it puts off women from attending. I'm not sure that this is going to result in a big flock of women heading to the working men's clubs, but apparently the real problem is over lockdown, men built man caves in their sheds and whatever, and now they're staying in that instead of going down the road.
I don't think they built man caves. They just stay at home and drink. It's not like you're not allowed to just drink in your own kitchen, is it?
Yeah, but when you start drinking it, it's called a man cave.
OK, fair enough. Show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. Daily Mail have down to the wire. The Telegraph, Ben Wallace, do not let Rwanda row bring down the government. Guardian, climate draft condemned as weak and insufficient. iNews, Tory rebels in standoff with PM on Rwanda law. Sun, Fury, Tyson versus Cheshire Council. Daily Express, last-ditch bid to win over rebels. Those were your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Leo Kearse and Bruce Devlin. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Josh Howie and Nick Dixon. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, go to bed. And I'll see you again tomorrow night. Thanks for giving us your time. Good night.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.